Okay, let's unpack this. You know that scene right after a big election loss?
Oh, yeah. Usually pretty intense.
Exactly. Intense. You get the loud pronouncements, the immediate hunt for who to blame, everyone sort of jockeying for position for the next fight.
Right. It's less about reflection and more, uh, honestly, about a political free-for-all sometimes.
A total cacophony of recrimination, as one source put it, which is just a fancy way of saying, blaming everyone else.
It's true, isn't it? In all that noise, it can feel impossible to find anything really meaningful.
But sometimes, maybe the most profound insights, they don't come from the loudest voices. They come from the quietest ones.
And we found something interesting in the source material here that points to a powerful, almost unexpected lesson. Something about political grace, dignity, found right in that quiet space after a defeat.
And the specific event we're diving into today, it's a recent, apparently quite contentious presidential election in South Korea. This is on June 3rd.
Right, and it resulted in a defeat for the candidate who had been backed by the People Power Party.
Now, our focus isn't on the big national figures or, the grand strategies that won or lost.
No, the sources we looked at, they drew our attention somewhere else, to a short message sent after this defeat.
Sent by a local elder named Yu Wang-hyeon.
Exactly. And he's not like a major national political player, but he holds a really significant role locally. He's the president of a society that honors Myeonam Choi Ik-hyun.
And Myeonam is a deeply revered historical figure in Korea, known throughout history for his unwavering integrity.
A really important figure.
So our mission here is to really dig into the sources about Mr. Yu's message. What did his simple words reveal about leadership, about responsibility?
Character, too.
Oh,
Especially when you're facing defeat.
yeah. We're going to explore exactly what he said, understand the context, and try to figure out why the sources highlight it as such a powerful contrast to the typical post-election scene.
Okay, so let's set that stage first. The typical aftermath.
Right. As the sources describe it, after the victor's, roar of celebration, on the losing side, things can spiral fast.
They call it a bitter blame game
Yeah.
and describe internal chaos. It sounds pretty rough.
Definitely. The People Power Party is specifically mentioned as being mired in a leadership vacuum after this particular loss.
A vacuum. So essentially no clear direction, no one really stepping up to take charge.
That's the picture painted.
Right. And it's against that backdrop, all that noise and chaos, that the sources point us to Mr. Yu Wang-hyeon.
This local elder in the city of Pocheon, and as you said, leading this Myeonam Choi Ik-hyun society.
And he'd been a public supporter of the People Power Party candidate, specifically named as Kim Moon-soo in one of the Korean sources.
Not just a quiet supporter either.
No, apparently he went to local rallies, was actively campaigning, really emphasizing the candidate's integrity, his morality.
One source even noted he suggested that focusing on promises like health and family harmony, well, that was the key to victory.
So he was invested, clearly believed in the candidate and the message.
But, as we know, the election result, it turned out differently than they expected.
Yeah.
And that's when this brief message appeared, sent to his local community, right there in Pocheon.
Just a short note.
And pulling together the phrasing from the sources we looked at, here's the core of it. He offered a direct apology. One version says, "I am endlessly sorry that my shortcomings fell short of the will of the citizens of Pocheon who always supported us with a warm heart."
And another quote adds, "I deeply apologize for not meeting expectations." That line, "I deeply apologize for not meeting expectations," it really stood out in the Korean source.
That's very direct.
Very. And then the conclusion. It's simple, but quite profound, really.
The sources have slightly different phrasing, but the absolute core feeling, the sentiment, it's identical. I am always grateful. I am sorry. I will do better.
Grateful, sorry, do better. Foundational words. And one source adds that promise, too. I will renew my resolve and certainly repay you with hope. Yeah. What's truly striking, though, when you look at those simple lines, is what's completely missing from that message, isn't it?
Absolutely. You read it, there are no excuses. None.
Zero excuses. No finger-pointing, no blaming the other side for negative campaigning or whatever.
Complex strategic post-mortem analysis about why they lost.
Nothing like that. It's just a straightforward, direct address, using what the sources called fundamental words.
Words like sorry, grateful, better.
Exactly. Words, as the sources note, that are often noticeably absent in the The often complex and calculated language of modern politics.
And the significance of this quiet message, especially for people who know the context in Korea, it really deepens when you understand Myeonam Choi Ik-hyun, the figure Mr. Yu honors. Tell us a bit more about him.
Right. Myeonam Choi Ik-hyun, he was a highly respected scholar official, an independence activist, too, from the late-Joseon Dynasty.
Okay.
And his defining characteristic, the thing he's revered for, is his unwavering integrity. Just absolute integrity. He dedicated his life to fighting for his principles, his convictions. Even during times of immense national crisis, he was actually exiled multiple times for standing firm on what he believed was right.
Wow. So his life wasn't really about political victory in the usual sense. It was more about holding true to his values no matter what.
Precisely. It wasn't about winning or losing the immediate fight, but about the principle itself.
So how does Mr. Yu's message connect to that spirit, to Myeonam's legacy?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. According to the analysis and the sources, it elevates Yu's message beyond just, a personal apology.
How so?
Myeonam's legacy demonstrates that true principle, true integrity, they aren't dependent on winning or losing an election. They transcend that.
Okay.
So, by taking personal accountability, apologizing directly to the citizens who supported him, not offering excuses, not blaming anyone else, Yu's message is seen as aligning directly with this Myeonam spirit.
Ah, I see. He's prioritizing character.
Exactly. Prioritizing character, respect for the citizenry, and that sense of responsibility over, say, political calculation or just saving face.
And the Korean source was quite direct about this connection.
Very explicit, yeah. It calls Yu's message a message of regrettable defeat from a conservative elder that really makes you pause and think about the dignity that politics seems to have lost sometimes.
Dignity.
And it frames Yu's words not just as his personal statement, but as a promise to the citizens, an expression of responsibility to the local community, rooted specifically in Myeonam's spirit.
And that quiet reflection, that embrace of personal responsibility by a local figure like Mr. Yu, it stands in such a stark, almost jarring contrast to the national scene described in the sources.
Absolutely jarring.
While this elder in Pocheon is showing this different path, his own political party nationally is, as you said, described as being engulfed in chaos and a blame game.
It really underscores that powerful idea highlighted in the sources. That the moment of defeat is when the character of an individual and an organization is most clearly revealed.
That's a potent line.
It is. And in that very moment of loss, Mr. Yu's simple message, it speaks volumes about character in a way the national discourse, as depicted anyway, just doesn't.
So if you distill it down, the core lesson from Mr. Yu's message, looking through the lens of the sources and Myeonam's spirit, it seems to be about embracing a kind of responsibility that exists independently of victory or defeat.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
It's about showing respect for the citizens you serve and demonstrating that through, genuine gratitude and apology.
And crucially, through the absence of blame directed outward. That lack of finger-pointing is key.
Right. Even if it's not explicitly saying, I respect my opponents, the lack of attack implies a certain dignity.
Exactly. And that's precisely why this seemingly simple message resonates so deeply and gets highlighted in the sources. It serves as this potent reminder.
That politics is fundamentally human.
Fundamentally human. Underneath all the strategy, the polling, the rhetoric, it's a human endeavor. And sometimes a sincere, quiet voice admitting fault, expressing gratitude. It can cut through all the noise.
Be more moving, more powerful maybe, than any grand policy speech or fiery slogan.
Far more powerful, potentially. The sources capture this beautifully, actually, stating there's a value more precious than the sound of triumph found in the quiet dignity of a graceful defeat.
Quiet dignity of a graceful defeat. That's memorable.
It really is.
And it's noted, too, that this lesson isn't seen as just limited to South Korea or just one political party.
No, the sources definitely suggest its relevance transcends party lines, even national borders. They point towards a kind of universal insight here.
Okay. So, to bring it all together, then, what we've really explored in this deep dive is how a simple, quite humble message from a local elder in South Korea, Yu Wang-hyeon,
after an election defeat.
Right. How that offers a profound lesson. A lesson in dignity, accountability, and character.
Especially revealed in those moments of loss, of failure.
And why should this specific local example from Pocheon, South Korea, why should it be relevant to you listening right now?
Well, because this story, it offers a truly universal insight, doesn't it? Into character, into leadership.
And into that often overlooked, sometimes forgotten, grace required in handling failure.
Exactly. It's not just applicable in politics, is it? Think about it. In business, maybe in personal projects you're working on?
Any area of life, really, where expectations are high and, well, the outcome just doesn't go your way.
How do you react then? That's the question.
Which leaves us with a thought, perhaps a final provocative thought for you to consider, building on the source material.
Okay.
If the quiet dignity shown in a message like Mr. Yu's holds such power and so clearly reveals character in the face of defeat, what does the absence of such messages in public life today across so many domains, what does that absence tell us?
What does it tell us about our current landscape, about the values we actually prioritize?
Yeah. And what would it truly mean for individuals, for organizations, maybe even for countries, if this lost art of graceful, accountable defeat, if it were somehow rediscovered, what would that look like?